Peace to everybody. This is about why you need to rewatch the Neverending Story after that Stranger Things finale. Whew. As you can see here, of course, here's a trio and a, I don't know what you wanted to call it, a dog like that flies. The Never-Ending Story remains a favorite among both those who grew up during the 80s and anyone lucky enough to have discovered it years after its release 35 years ago. It's an instantly recognizable relic of the time, a veritable classic that's typically listed alongside imaginative crowd pleasers like Labyrinth and The Dark Crystal as some of the best fantasy epics to come out of the decades. Yeah, so the Neverending Story came out 35 years ago, and it's an instantly recognizable relic of the time. So it's a very good, it's a very old movie from the 80s. So yeah, it still remains a favorite to both of those who grew up during the 80s and anyone lucky enough to have discovered it years after. So, it should come as no surprise that it received a very special tribute to the final episode of Stranger Things, Season 3, a show whose creators go to great lengths to ensure its 80s authentically. So yeah, so it's no surprise that it received a very special tribute to the episode of Stranger Things, which I have never watched, so I don't know what Stranger Things is, and I probably never will, which in fact I won't know what it is. For younger viewers, it's entirely possible that the novelty of Dustin Henderson and girlfriend Susie singing a duet of the Neverending Story's iconic theme song of the same name was completely lost. It's not a film often evoked in modern popular culture, but for those who have experienced its magic, it was likely a warm welcome Easter egg and potentially a reference that launched a million Google searches. Yeah, so that's what had happened. It was entirely possible that the novelty of Dustin Henderson and girlfriend Susie has signed a duet together of the Never-Ending Story theme song. It was completely, of course, the song, the same name, was completely lost as well. So, and it just got lost until it finally popped up somewhere. It was in modern popular culture. By those who have experienced its magic, it was a likely warm welcome Easter egg, obviously. And of course, it launched a million Google searches. What is the Never-Ending Story about anyway? And is it worth watching? Of course it is. It's one of the wonderful fantasy movies ever. I have seen it and it is wonderful and it is well worth the watch. Is the rest of the movie as awesome, as memorable as that endlessly catchy theme song? Yes, it is. It sure is. It's an awesome the movie is awesome and memorable, sorry, and it is a wonderful movie. You've got all the details you need to know about this masterful 80s fantasy flick, as well 3 reasons you should dive into it following that gorgeous Stranger Things sing-along. Well, yeah, kind of, but Stranger Things sing-along, I don't think I could do that. Nah, it's an 80s fantasy flick, that's what it is, so it's all fantasy, so in other words, it's not really a real thing, but it's just a fantasy, that's all it is. And of course, here's the little boy who was reading this book on I guess it's a flying dog like or something. I don't remember what it was. The Neverending Story is based on German author Michael Ending's 1979 book of the same name, which follows a boy named Bastian Baltzar Box. He's having some issues dealing with his mother's passing and finds solace in a mysterious bookstore owned by one Karl Conrad, coordinator whose old shop houses a book called The Neverending Story. Yeah, so there was about a little boy named Bastian. He was having a hard time dealing with his mom's passing, and of course, he was trying to find solace, so he did, and he started reading the Never-Ending Story book, so that's where he was finding solace. And Bastian steals the book and hides in his school's attic, where he finds himself getting lost in a strange tale about the magical land of Fantasia. Oh yeah, so yeah, that's what he was doing. He took the book, ran to the attic, and of course he started reading it. Fantasia is ruled by the sweet childlike empress, appearing as a young girl who's fielding requests by her constituents to create some sort of defense against a terrifying entity known as the Nothing. The empress is dying, however, and has enlisted a hero in the form of a boy named Atreus to have save her life and cast away the terrible nothingness. So yeah, so there was a childlike empress. She was dying. And of course she was appearing as a young girl. And of course there was a thing called the Nothing. And of course the Empire has enlisted a hero from a boy named Atreus. So only Atreus was only allowed to help because there was nobody else around to save her. Atreus is charged with saving Fantasia from the Nothing, and he's given a powerful medallion named Arun to keep him from harm while working to do just that. Yeah, so Atreus was in charge of saving Fantasia from the Nothing, so that's what it was about. And of course he was given a medallion as well. On his way to seek out a cure for the childlike emperor's ailment, Atreus comes upon an enormous furry serpent called a luck dragon named Falkar, who becomes his companion and friend throughout the remainder of the film. So yeah, so there was a furry serpent called a luck dragon, but to me it looks like a dog to me, really, because it has a dog face, really. But the luck dragon's name is Falkar, and who became Atreus' companion. The pair are forced to face off against dangerous enemies and situations in a bid of seal away the Nothing and help the childlike empress. So yeah, you got this the dangerous enemies that are coming here and there. Of course, they got a trio and this luck dragon have to go through challenges with these enemies and that. As Bastian reads further in the book and the trials and tribulations of Fantasia unfold, he unearths a strange secret about the book. It repeats itself over and over again until certain conditions are met, meaning he'll have to be an active participant in some of the story's most harrowing situations if he wants to reach true resolution. What does that mean? Well, you'll have to watch and see. Yeah, so Bastian reads further into the book, and of course, you just cannot stop reading, obviously. And of course, the trials and tribulations of Fantasia unfold. He unearths a strange secret about the book. So the book has lots of secrets that is being uncovered in the meantime. And of course, Atreyu and Faulkner are the ones that goes through everything. Not only is the Neverending Story a nihilistic affair for many viewers, but is a classic example of how thought-provoking and entertaining fantasy stories can actually be. It's got everything: a typical story from the trope needs a mysterious artifact, a mythical journey, fantastical creatures, and a hero you can't help but root for. Yeah, so it's got everything. It's got a mysterious artifact, a mythical art, a journey, fantastical creatures, and a hero you can't help but root for, of course. So it just has everything. And a classic example of how thought-provoking and entertaining fantasy stories can actually be. Bastian is kind of an outcast who gets bullied at school and gets to live victoriously through the hero Atreyu, which is the ultimate fantasy. Viewers come along for the ride, hopping aboard a mythical dragon and saving an entire civilization from certain destruction. Who wouldn't want to be a part of all that? I would love to be a part of all that, because I've seen it enough times and I miss it so much, that movie. And of course, Atreyu, he was an outcast, so I guess nobody wanted him around, so he was an outcast to be by himself. And of course, Atreyu was the only one to help the childlike empress who was dying. But it's more than that, too. For the length of its runtime, it completely transports you to a believable storyland where just for an hour and some change, you can completely lose yourself. You definitely can lose yourself. So it's like for an hour and some change, that's all it is. It's complete. And of course, it completely transports you to a believable storyland, of course. This is a concept some modern films are still having difficulty with, and with limited practical effects and 80s filmmaking standards, is still a believable trip to a faraway land that you'll truly become invested in, even if you're momentarily put off by its dated effects. It'll be hard to put Atreyu, Faulkner, and the rest of the citizens of Fantasia out of your mind. So in a way, you can dream a little, or daydream, or fantasize of being at Fantasia with Atreyu, Faulkner, and the rest of the citizens. There's nothing wrong with fantasizing, really, but you'll truly become invested in, even if you're momentarily put off by its dated effects. So yeah, it's a pretty good idea if you fantasize pretending you're there. And of course, here's the childlike empress who has asked Atreyu to help her to get rid of the nothing. Hear me now, readers. If you watch the Neverending Story, you will cry. That is fact. From the terrifying, heartbreaking fate of Atreyu's faithful equine companion Archax, to the gloomy swamp of sadness, to realizing the horror of the nothing is really just the threat of being swept away into literal non-existence. This fantasy tale is happy to force you into unsettling predicaments where you're unsure what's going to happen next, or even who you should root for. So now, if you watch the Neverending Story, you will cry. Of course, that's a fact, because it's a sad movie, or sad fantasy. And of course, realizing the horror of the nothing, of course, they're all trying to get a trio, and Faulkner, of course, they're doing everything they can to get rid of the nothing. And it's also, this fantasy tale is happy to force you into unsettling predicaments. So, any predicaments that come along, of course. Why do so many bad things continue happening to Fantasia? So you can feel something, obviously. Of course, a lot of bad things are happening in Fantasia. You can feel them, obviously. There's something initially organic about the way the never-ending story treats tragedy and its audience. Though it's obviously a story for children in every sense of the word, it never amuses viewers are too young to handle its more mature concepts. So yeah, it's obviously a story for children, but it could also be for adults as well. So I mean, it doesn't always have to be for children, but it's an organic about the way the never-ending story treats tragedy and its audience. Yes, people still die in this fantasy world. Bullying and even a bit of verbal abuse is parental hands is very real. Yeah, so bullying and even a bit of verbal abuse at parental hands is very real. So, it's nothing fake about bullying. It's nothing fake about verbal abuse, obviously. Rather than skirting around these real world problems, the never ending story faces them head on and challenges viewers to do the same. So the never ending story faces them head on. And of course, you have to feel the same way to take on the same thing. Let's face it, we know why you're really here. You heard the dulcet tone of Dustin and Susie crooning together over a ham radio and had to know more. Yeah, the movie's cool and all, but what about that song? Yeah, what about that song? I think that song is wonderful. It's great. It's awesome. That's what I think of it as. If the first time you ever let it wash over you was when you heard it on Stranger Things, you're overdue for another listen. Oh, for everybody who loves that song, The Never Ending Story, you're definitely overdue for a listen. I think this is why they want people to watch it again, because of the song, and it's very wonderful. You may or may not know Lemay, who sings the never-ending story from the 80s pop outfit Kagagugu. After breaking off of a somewhat successful solo career, Kajagugu, okay, I'm sorry, that's who that is. Career. He reached peak successes with the debut of the movie's gleeful theme song and its pop perfection with a soaring chorus, overwhelming positivity and lyrics that instantly put a smile on your face. Yeah, so outfit Kagagugu, after breaking off was somewhat successful. Of course, he was the one who sings it, but face. And of course, the gleeful theme song and its pop perfection is with a soaring chorus. If there's one huge reason why the movie became part of our cultural lexicon, this is it. And one of the reasons you'll fall in love with it too. Its message of hopefulness can break through even your darkest clouds. Yes, so there's a message in all of this, throughout this whole movie of the never-ending story. So the message is hopefulness can break through even your darkest clouds as well. Or you'll just keep humming it constantly. Either way, it's a beautiful piece of music and just as integral to the film as the furry Fokker or the tale itself. Yeah, so that's what it is. If you just keep humming it constantly, either way, it's a beautiful piece. So the song is beautiful and I love it myself. Leave your comments below. I am out.